Hello friends, welcome to my channel. So today in this video tutorial, we will see the implementation of Snowflake Snowpipe streaming feature using the Kafka connector. To keep the video small, I will complete this implementation in two parts. So in the first part, we will see the setup of Kafka along with Python and a simple hello world implementation of Kafka. In the second video, we will use this setup for the real-time data ingestion inside Snowflake using the Kafka and Snowpipe streaming. So before we go towards the Kafka setup, a very brief introduction about what is Kafka and why do we need it. So in today's world, all the programming or all the software development is happening using the OOPS concept. Now, what is OOP? OOP is nothing but object-oriented programming. So essentially, all the development is happening around the objects, right? As the definition suggests. So if in case of financial domain, we can have two objects like customer and bank. In terms of database, these objects are also referred as entities. So in database, we can have two different tables, one for customer, another one for bank. But the point is, how does actual business happens within the real world? It happens when one object performs an activity. For example, the customer performs a transaction or a financial transaction of $20, say. So this activity is also called an event in real world. So in real world, business takes place in terms of events. Now, second concept is event streaming. Now, what is event streaming? The practice to capture the data inside these events, which is being generated from event sources in real time, that is called event streaming. Now, what are these event sources? This could be different entities like it could be database, it could be sensors in case of IoT implementations, things like that. Now the question is, where does this Kafka comes into picture here? Because we can simply store these transactions into our database, right, in the transaction table. Now consider a scenario of an e-commerce portal where a user comes and performs a purchase transaction of a product. Now suppose that you want to send this information in real time to multiple target systems. For example, you want to send this information to database for persistent storage. You also want to send this information to data lake for the data science team, and in real time you want to send this to a machine learning recommendation engine which can analyze this data and give the product recommendations in real time to the user. Now that's where the Kafka comes into picture. So what is Kafka? So Kafka is an event streaming platform which uses distributed architecture, and it provides us primarily three capabilities. One is it provides us the capability to publish the events to event streams and consume or subscribe to those events from the event streams. Now, the most important feature is that we can have many publishers and many consumers or subscribers at the same time to a single topic. So many publishers will be publishing their messages, and all the consumers who subscribe to that topic will be consuming those events in real time. So we will see the actual implementation of this feature. The second feature is that Kafka can store the events as long as we want. If we want, it can store it for infinite time as well. And it gives us the capability to process those event streams as well. Now, some of the components and terminologies you need to be aware for this setup is zookeeper. So as I said earlier, that Kafka performs in distributed architecture. Kafka operates in distributed architecture. So whenever we have a distributed architecture, we need a mechanism for service synchronization. So Zookeeper is an open source system for service synchronization in distributed system, and Kafka uses this Zookeeper. Kafka servers are the servers which are used to host the Kafka services. One term which we need to be aware of is that broker. So brokers are the servers which are used to store events. Kafka clients are nothing but applications or microservices which either publish events to the Kafka topic or consume events from the Kafka topic. The terminologies which we will be using is event. So event is nothing but an activity which is happening in real world. An event will have a data. Usually it has attributes primarily like three: event ID, event timestamp, and event data. There can be or event value, and there can be optional attributes like uh, metadata and other attributes as well. topic. So if you consider event as a file, so you can think of topic as a folder inside which all those files are being stored, and all the clients, whether it is publisher or it is consumer, subscribe to these topics. Producers are the services which publish events to the topics. Consumers are the services which consume those events from the topics. So now let's go to the setup. So first of all, we will need to download the Kafka setup. We can use Apache Kafka website. So latest version is 3.60. The thing which is required to note is that we need to download the binary version and not the source version. So we can download this 2.12, 3.6 version. I have already downloaded it to save our time. So I will use that. So let me go to the download folder. So here is the downloaded file. Let me uncompress it. So it is extracted. So what I can do is that I can copy this file or this folder to a directory. Right now I can use the E directory. So all my required folders are here. So the next step is that Zookeeper service and the Kafka server will create logs. So we need to create a directory to store those logs. So inside Kafka logs, I will be creating two folders, one for Zookeeper and one for Kafka server. So let us create them quickly. Folder, Kafka logs. Inside, I can create a new folder, which is Zookeeper, and the second one is my Kafka server. Once that is done, as a next step, I need to update my properties files with the locations for my logs directory. So these Zookeeper properties, all the properties file in Kafka is stored inside the Kafka directory, inside the config directory. Let us go there. Kafka config. You can see all the properties files are here. So I need to update the path for my Zookeeper service and my server. So first of all, Zookeeper properties. So here is the directory path which I need to update. So I can simply pick this and paste it here. Another configuration which I need to update is this max client connections, which basically defines how many connection my client application can have to the Zookeeper service. By default, it is 0. I am keeping it 1. Another properties file I need to update is server.properties. The updates which I need to perform here is, first of all, I need to uncomment the listeners so that my server can go on listening mode. So if I search for listeners, so here is the listener part. I uncomment it. The point I need to note is that the port is 9092 on which my system will be listening. So we will cross check this port number later on. Another configuration I need to update is my log directory. So my log directory will be this. The third configuration which I can update is, but not mandatory, is the timeout. It is by default 18 seconds, but for the sake of this video tutorial, I am keeping it 90 seconds. So this is all with updating the properties file. The next step which we need to perform is bring up our Zookeeper service. So before we bring up our Zookeeper service, the Kafka underneath uses Java. So we need to ensure that Java is installed in our system. So to confirm that, we can use the PowerShell and run a simple command to check the version of Java, Java-version. So if Java is installed, it will give back me the version, which in my case is 20. So we are good with that. So now let's bring up the Kafka service. Now to bring up the different services, we get two options, either using the shell scripts or using the bat executable. If we are in the Unix system, definitely we will use the shell scripts, but in Windows system, we can use the bat executables. Let me show you the location. So if I go to the Kafka bin, you can see all the shell scripts to perform or to bring up and down various services. And inside this, there is a Windows folder, and here are the corresponding bat executables. So we will be using these bat executables. For example, for Zookeeper, we will be using Zookeeper server start. For Kafka, we will be using Kafka server start bat executable. So let us use them. So I am using zookeeper server start.bat, and I am passing the configurations using the zookeeper.properties file. Okay. So here I am getting the system path error. Now this error usually comes because of the Java home setup. So if I show you the Java home variable value, so my path is properly set up. And if I go to the configurations for Kafka, then I can go here and Kafka run class. If I simply open this file and check the Java version or Java home, I can see my Java home is set up here also. So because of this setup, my Java home path is getting duplicated. So one simple and quick solution for this tutorial is that we can set up this Java home as nothing. So if I do this $env Java home equals to nothing, if I print it again, nothing. So we are good here. So let me run the command again to bring up the Zookeeper service. Okay. Our Zookeeper service is up and running, and it is up at localhost and 2181 port. So we are good here. The next step is to bring up the Kafka server. So again, we will be using bin windows Kafka server start.bat, and we will be passing the configuration using the server.properties file. Let's see that. We need to do this in a new session. And because it is a new session, so I will need to set up my Java home for this session. So my Kafka server is up and running. And important thing to note is that it is up at 9092 port. I can cross check it here as well that it is at localhost and 9092 port. So we are good. The next part is that we create a topic, as I already told you, that all the producers publish their events to the topics and all the consumers subscribe to these topics to get those events. So for this, I will be using Kafka topics.bat executable. Using the create tag, we are telling that are creating a new topic, and with the topic we are giving the topic name. This topic name is important and it should be unique because we will be using this unique topic name uh, with all the producers and consumers. Then we are giving our server path and port. Replication factor and partition factor are corresponding to distributed architecture. These are not really important at this point of time. So for now, we can keep the values 1. And we need to create this topic in a new session. So here we will need to set up the Java home again. So my Kafka topic is created with the name hello world. The next step is to create a producer which will be publishing the events to this Kafka topic. So I'm using the executable Kafka console producer. I'm giving the topic name to which it will be publishing the events, and then I'm giving the path of the server, which is localhost and port 9092. I can use this session only. Now my producer is created and I can send my messages. Hello from producer 1, message 2. Okay. So my producer is able to send the events but there is no consumer who is listening to or who is consuming these events. So let us now create a consumer. To create a consumer, we will be using the executable Kafka console consumer, and we will be giving the topic name. This from beginning clause is to define whether we want. So suppose I have created a Kafka topic on January 1st, and I am creating a new consumer on January 10th. So there will be a list of topics or list of events which were sent between January 1st to January 9th. Through this tag, I am defining whether I want to access all the events which were sent from January 1, or I want to access only the events right from the point of time where this particular consumer is being created. So right now I'm giving the option that from beginning I want to consume all the events, and then I'm giving the server path. So let me simply copy this, and we need a new session definitely. So $env java home equals to nothing. Then we create a consumer. Okay, so my consumer is created, and I also received the historical events which were sent. Hello from producer 1 and message 2. Now if I send another message, let's say message 3, in real time I will be able to get that event at the consumer end. Now we can create multiple consumers who can get this event at real time. So let us create a new consumer. So if I say, because this is a new session, java home equals to nothing, I create a new consumer, the command will remain same and the topic name will remain same. Now here, this is the second consumer, and because it was from beginning, so I have received all the historical events as well. If I pass another message, message 4 or message 4, I am receiving all the messages in real time at all the consumer ends. Now here we saw the example of one publisher publishing the message and multiple consumers receiving that event at the in the real time. Now let us make it more complex and have multiple producers who will be publishing the messages to the same topic, and the multiple consumers, we already have two, we will be seeing that multiple consumers receiving those events in real time. So one publisher we already have. What we can do is we can do a Python setup quickly and create a new producer there. So for Python setup, we simply need to install this library, pip install Kafka Python. So if I go to my Visual Code, I have created this Snowflake underscore Kafka directory and created a virtual environment. I can simply install this library, but because it is already installed in my case, so I get the requirement already satisfied message. Now this is a simple program to create a producer. I am importing the sleep library from time because I want a lag of 2 seconds between two messages. Dump library from JSON to convert my message into JSON object, and then from Kafka I'm bringing in the Kafka producer function. So topic name I am defining hello world. Important thing that it should be same as given earlier while creation of the topic. Now I'm creating a producer. In the bootstrap server, I'm giving the path, which is localhost and 9092 port. In the value serializer, I am doing simply a method to serialize the message, and then I'm encoding it further to UTF-8 format. Now I'm starting a loop for 1000, preparing a dummy data, that PyScript number or PyScript publisher, and then I'm simply printing this number. I'm printing this whole message in the console here as well so that I can see which message I am sending, and then I'm publishing this event to the topic. So let us run this. I can save it and python app.py. Okay, so I have started publishing the messages after every 2 seconds. Let us check these messages at the consumer end. So this is the consumer. I am receiving messages every 2 seconds. This is consumer one. This is consumer two. Now, one of my publisher is publishing every 2 seconds. So let us publish a new message from first publisher and see what happens. So message from publisher one. If I go to my consumer, I can see in real time I received the message from my first publisher as well, and that is true at the both consumer ends. So this is how Kafka works, and this is a simple hello world implementation of Kafka. In the next video, we will use this setup and Kafka connector to ingest these events into our Snowflake in real time. So see you in the next video. If you find this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel.